If you want to see um, what's probably the most brutal, heavily scrutinized, and just high-stakes competition in America right now, you actually shouldn't be looking at the athletes on the track.
Oh, definitely not.
No, you really have to look at what the people in the stands are wearing on their heads.
It is such a phenomenal contrast, isn't it? I mean, down in the mud, you have this absolute gritty equine power.
Right.
But then up in the luxury boxes, you've got this delicate, handcrafted haute couture that is essentially being weaponized for social status.
Weaponized is the perfect word for it. And whether you're a fashion aficionado, a sports fan, or just incredibly curious, we've got a fantastic journey for you today because we are stepping right into the middle of that collision.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to today's deep dive. To set the scene for you, it is May 2, 2026. We are at Churchill Downs for the 152nd running of the Kentucky Derby.
The most exciting 2 minutes in sports.
Exactly. And just to ground you in the athletic reality of the day, because the sports history made here was actually monumental, a 23-1 long shot named Golden Tempo took the win.
Which was incredible.
Totally. And Cherie DeVaux made history. She was the first female trainer to ever win the Derby, and she became only the second woman to train a Triple Crown winner. So it was just an unbelievable day for the sport itself.
Truly historic.
But our mission today is to pull back the lens. We're taking this massive stack of sources. We're talking fashion critiques, historical articles, museum archives, and like celebrity interviews.
There's so much material to go through.
So much. And we're going to synthesize all of it to uncover how a simple horse race evolved into this hyper-competitive arena of fashion, culture, and, social commentary.
Well, to understand the sheer scale of the Derby as this sort of cultural machine, you really have to examine the sociological dynamic of the guest list.
Oh, the guest list is wild.
Right. You do not see the specific blend of human beings anywhere else. It's a complete suspension of normal Hollywood or athletic hierarchy.
Yeah, just looking at the roster from this 2026 race, the groupings make no sense in any other context. There was this massive wave of boy band nostalgia.
Which I loved, honestly.
Right. Joey Fatone from NSYNC was there, and apparently he is a die-hard Derby regular. Like, he comes specifically for the outfits and the camaraderie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then you have Howie Doro from the Backstreet Boys, who's been doing this for over 2 decades. He was walking alongside Lance Bass, and they are mingling with 90s television icons like Melissa Joan Hart and Danica McKellar.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. It sounds like the world's weirdest high school reunion, where the jocks, the theater kids, and the boy bands all got mashed together in one room.
That is exactly what it feels like.
And what's fascinating here is that you weave in the sports royalty, who are suddenly totally out of their element.
Oh, right, the athletes.
Yeah. You have Patriots legend Rob Gronkowski in a dark blue blazer and light chinos, and he is quite literally pulling stacks of cash from his jacket pocket to show off for the cameras.
Wait, really? Just flashing cash?
Literally flashing cash. He is leaning entirely into this high roller persona. And then right near him is his former coach, Bill Belichick, in a pastel blue suit and pink shirt, walking with his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson.
Okay, seeing Belichick in pastel is an image.
I know, right? And Hudson even posted a really self-aware joke during the Kentucky Oaks race the day before. She showed them walking on the dirt track and noted it wasn't the first time they had trudged through the mud together.
That's amazing. But I have to say, the quote of the weekend has to go to former NBA star Joakim Noah.
Oh, I saw this.
So good. He shows up in a little jacket layered over an NBA hoodie. He just completely ignores the pastel dress code, and he tells reporters, yesterday I was on a camel in Morocco and today I'm at the horse races.
I mean, that quote exposes why this whole event works. The Derby is basically a masquerade ball, and the mask everyone is putting on is a very specific flavor of curated Americana.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
So whether you are an Olympic athlete, a boy band member, or an NBA star flying in from North Africa, you all just surrender to the same shared mythos.
Right, everyone's playing the game.
Exactly. The usual red carpet rules where A-listers separate themselves from B-listers, those just dissolve because everyone is participating in this same slightly absurd, deeply entrenched tradition.
I buy that everyone is participating, but man, the fashion critics were absolutely ruthless this year.
Oh, they held nothing back.
Because fashion is inherently subjective, right? So the media coverage of the 2026 Derby outfits was just violently polarized.
It really was. And we're stepping into an area where we just have to impartially report what the critics said, because the tension in these reviews tells us a lot about the hidden rules of the Derby.
Yeah, so let's look at the debate over Neil Patrick Harris and his husband David Bertka.
A very polarizing look.
Very. The publication Brainy Bits thought they were brilliant. They named them the best-dressed couple. Harris wore this black suit coat, heavily embroidered with feathers.
Wow, feathers.
Yeah, and Burtka wore a garden-themed jacket paired with Bermuda shorts, knee-high socks, and a bow tie. Brainy Bits called the whole aesthetic wonderfully whimsical.
But then you look at the list, and they vehemently disagreed. They crowned Harris and Burtka the absolute worst dressed of the entire event.
The worst out of everyone.
The absolute worst. And their critique wasn't just about disliking the aesthetic. It was about structural failure.
Structural failure, like architectural.
Sort of, yeah, from a tailoring perspective. They argued the jackets were ill-fitting. And the rule is, if you are going to wear Bermuda shorts to a high society event, the jacket has to be impeccably structured.
Okay, why is that?
Because shorts remove visual weight from the bottom half of your body. So a loose or bulky jacket makes you look top-heavy and sloppy. The list felt the eye-catching patterns combined with poor tailoring created a disaster.
Oh, wow.
They even wondered if the couple dressed terribly on purpose for a wince effect.
Ouch. That is harsh, but I guess it makes sense structurally.
Yeah.
The critics also went after the rule breakers, though.
Right, like Nate Burleson.
That's exactly. NFL analyst Nate Burleson wore a mint green striped blazer with matching shorts. Some people thought it was a bold, modern take, but others couldn't stand it. And then music legend Chaka Khan arrived, looking objectively elegant, but she wore head-to-toe funeral black.
Which is a big no-no for the Derby.
Yeah, she completely dismissed the bright pastel spring memo that the whole event is built on.
And you know, the scrutiny even extended to local civic leaders. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg and his wife Rachel faced intense backlash from the list.
Really? Even the mayor?
Oh, yeah. They were criticized for wearing frumpy, baggy, 1980s-style outfits that critics felt just failed to match the grandeur expected of the city's highest office on its biggest day.
That's rough.
The mayor's lavender suit was called out for its loose fit and casual sneakers, while Rachel's drop-waist puff-sleeve dress was dismissed as outdated.
Wait, I still don't fully grasp the standard here. Isn't the whole point of Derby fashion to be a bit absurd?
Well, yes and no.
Like, why are critics penalizing stars like Neil Patrick Harris or Nate Burleson for going over the top when that's exactly what the Derby demands? Isn't spectacle the entire point?
Spectacle is the requirement, yes, but there is a hidden code of etiquette. It's this tension between classic Southern tailoring and theatrical costume. It is a very tightrope walk.
So you can't just throw on anything crazy.
Exactly. If you wear a loud, garden-themed pattern, the fabric must be premium and the cut must be razor sharp. When attendees lean too far into the costume element and abandon the refinement of traditional tailoring, they break the illusion.
Ah, so the critics don't mind absurdity. They just mind cheap-looking absurdity.
You hit the nail on the head.
So, okay, but the reason the critics are so fiercely protective of this specific balance of refinement and spectacle goes all the way back to the origins of the dress code, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Because ultimately, the biggest status symbol at the Derby isn't the suit or the dress, it's the hat.
The hat is the crown jewel. It's the focal point of the entire cultural phenomenon. And to understand why we have these heated debates over shorts and feathers, we have to trace the architecture of this event back to 1875.
1875. Okay, set the scene.
The founder of the Kentucky Derby, Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr., had a significant public relations problem. American horse racing in the 19th century was viewed as rough, dirty, and a bit unsavory.
Right, it wasn't exactly a place for high society to hang out.
Not at all. So Clark needed to change that perception to make his new track at Churchill Downs profitable. He looked at elite European races, like the Prix de Longchamp in Paris and Royal Ascot in England.
Oh, the really fancy ones.
Exactly. Those were social events for the aristocracy. To manufacture that same respectability in Kentucky, he basically weaponized the dress code.
By forcing people to dress up.
By strictly enforcing formal fashion, particularly elaborate hats for women, he was signaling that his track was a safe, exclusive environment for the upper crust.
And a large, elaborate hat in 1875 is the ultimate display of what sociologists call conspicuous consumption.
Yes.
I mean, if you are wearing a massive, imported silken lace structure on your head, it physically proves you don't have to do manual labor. You are rich enough to wear something completely impractical.
That is exactly the point, and that DNA is still explicitly enforced today. The official 2026 style guide literally instructs guests to treat the hat as the focal point of the canvas. Everything else is just the frame.
We saw that play out perfectly on the red carpet this year. TV personality Star Jones wore this massive, sweeping blue hat piled high with feathers that practically cascaded down her hair.
It was stunning.
And Cassandra Johnson, who was a well-known staple in derby fashion, wore a gorgeous, intricately constructed floral crown to match her silk dress. The hat absolutely leads the outfit.
But the aesthetic of these hats has mutated a lot since 1875.
Yeah, they're not quite Victorian anymore.
Right. They used to be about signaling quiet refinement to your wealthy peers. Now they are these neon, gravity-defying architectural structures.
So what caused that shift?
The catalyst for that mutation was the television revolution of the 1960s and 70s.
Oh, of course. The cameras.
Yes. When national broadcast cameras started panning across the crowd at Churchill Downs, the psychology of the attendees shifted. If you wore a standard, traditionally refined hat, you just blended into the sea of people.
Right, you'd be invisible.
To get on national television, you had to break the visual plane. You had to wear something brighter, wider, and more theatrical than the person next to you.
Wait, here's where it gets really interesting. These oversized hats were basically the original Instagram filter.
Oh, I love that comparison.
Right. People were dressing specifically for the camera decades before social media even existed. They were dressing for a lens, not for the people standing next to them.
It is a profound shift. Fashion at the Derby evolved from a quiet signal of upper-class refinement into a loud, external broadcasting tool for personal branding and media attention.
It went from "I belong here" to "look at me,"
Exactly.
which raises a really fascinating practical question. If these hats are massive, highly visual broadcasting tools, who is actually building them?
It's not easy work.
No. You don't just walk into a department store and buy a feather-covered, wind-resistant architectural marvel off the rack.
You really do not, which is why the Kentucky Derby Museum actually runs a featured milliners program. Millinery, the art and science of making hats, is an ancient trade.
And the level of craftsmanship required to sustain this aesthetic in 2026 is just staggering.
It's unbelievable, and the backgrounds of the people doing this work completely surprised me.
Let's talk about Alana Kogan. She operates a business under the name The Hat Doctor.
Yes, the Hat Doctor.
And she is literally a full-time radiologist.
Wait, a radiologist?
Yes, she moved to Kentucky for medical school, and she noticed her classmates wanted to participate in the derby fashion, but couldn't afford the high-end luxury pieces.
Because they're med students.
Exactly. So she started buying cheap materials and reconstructing budget-friendly hats for them. Now, she is a featured designer building these delicate, one-of-a-kind, hand-embroidered masterpieces.
That is so cool. Though, from a layman's perspective, jumping from radiology to high-end fashion seems pretty counterintuitive.
That's what I kept getting hung up on. How does a full-time radiologist even have the time or creative energy to sculpt high-end fashion? Do you think the extreme precision required in medicine directly translates to the meticulous, hand-stitched precision of millinery?
I actually think it translates perfectly when you realize that millinery is fundamentally an engineering discipline.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is a constant battle against physics. You have to balance weight, manage the center of gravity, and build a rigid internal structure that can withstand a sudden gust of wind while making the final product look weightless and delicate.
That is wild.
Right, and think about it. Our radiologist spends her life analyzing the structural integrity of the human skeleton. Diagnosing a structural weakness in a wide-brimmed hat requires the exact same analytical, spatial awareness.
Okay, that makes so much sense. It's basically structural engineering using fabric.
Exactly. And then you have someone like Jenny Fannenstyle, who is a master milliner.
I saw her work. It's incredible.
She uses centuries-old sculpting techniques to manipulate these materials over wooden hat blocks. She was even named an enterprising woman by Louisville Business First because her operation is so sophisticated.
Wow.
The mechanics of wearing these pieces can be so complex that some of them basically come with an instruction manual.
Oh, Olympian Lolo Jones is a perfect example of that complexity.
She really is.
She wore this stunning Alexander McQueen gown, but she paired it with a fascinator designed by a local Louisville artist. And Jones admitted she actually had to be given a physical demo on how to put it on and wear it properly.
To understand why a demo is necessary, we should probably clarify the difference between a traditional hat and a fascinator.
Yeah, what is the difference?
Well, a hat has a brim and a crown. It rests naturally on the head and provides some utility, like shade. A fascinator, on the other hand, is a purely ornamental headpiece.
So it doesn't just sit there.
No, it doesn't rest naturally at all. It has to be strategically anchored to the skull using combs, clips, or a wire frame.
Sounds painful.
It can be. It is wearable architecture designed to defy gravity. If you don't anchor it correctly, the weight distribution will either give you a severe headache or the piece will tear right out of your hair.
It is just wild to me that in 2026, this massive sporting event is single-handedly sustaining this highly specialized, centuries-old craft of wearable architecture.
Well, it sustains it because the Derby is no longer just a horse race. I mean, it hasn't been for a long time.
Right.
It has mutated into an entire self-sustaining economic and cultural ecosystem. The fashion, the hats, the bedding, the celebrities, they all feed off each other to create a very specific consumer product.
So what does this all mean? The Derby is essentially the Super Bowl of the South, but instead of Gatorade and face paint, you have mint juleps, superfectas, and Hallmark movie cross-promotions.
The media synergy is practically seamless at this point. Consider the Hallmark Channel.
Oh, the movie they made?
Yes. They literally filmed a movie titled Kentucky Roses, starring Andrew Walker and Odette Annable entirely on location at Churchill Downs.
That's such smart marketing.
And they strategically scheduled the premiere of the movie for the exact same night as the 2026 race. They are capitalizing on the captive audience whose romanticism and nostalgia are already piqued by the events of the day.
And the attendees happily buy into that nostalgia. It becomes this deeply entrenched personal tradition.
Definitely.
You have public figures like Larry Burkhead, who attends annually with his daughter Danny Lynn. That is a years-long family tradition playing out right in front of the cameras.
And Melissa Joan Hart's interview this year perfectly illustrates how deeply people want to participate in the mechanics of this ritual.
She hadn't been in a while, right?
Right. She was returning to the Derby for the first time in 18 years. And in her interviews, she didn't focus on the VIP treatment or the luxury. She specifically cited her love for good old-fashioned Americana.
She really embraced it.
She embodied the full fan experience. When the weather turned poor, she didn't retreat to a suite. She bought a last-minute wrap. She went down to the counter to place a physical cash bet on a 2001 long shot named Smile Happy.
Smile Happy. I love that.
Yeah. She even talked about contemplating her first ever superfecta.
I'm glad you brought up the superfecta, because that specific bet perfectly mirrors the chaos of the Derby.
How so?
For anyone who isn't familiar with track betting, a superfecta isn't just picking the winning horse. You have to predict the exact first, second, third, and fourth place horses in that exact order.
Which is nearly impossible.
Exactly. It is an incredibly low probability, high reward wager. It is basically threading a needle in a hurricane. You are trying to assert control and knowledge over a chaotic, unpredictable animal race.
And that tension between chaos and control is the lifeblood of the Derby. The event survives because it perfectly commodifies nostalgia.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It offers a meticulously curated, safe fantasy where modern celebrities and regular attendees can step out of the chaos of their normal lives, put on a heavily structured costume, and play a part in a living museum exhibit of Southern Americana.
Which really brings this entire phenomenon into focus. The 152nd Kentucky Derby gave us historic, barrier-breaking athletic wins on the track with Cherie DeVoe and her long shot Golden Tempo.
An amazing sporting achievement.
Absolutely. And on the red carpet, we watched wildly polarizing celebrity fashion debates over tailoring and costume. And behind the scenes, we have a beautiful reminder of the highly scientific, centuries-old art of millinery working against gravity to keep the whole spectacle afloat.
It is a remarkable convergence of raw athletic history, modern commerce, and ancient artisanship.
It really is. So to you, our listener, the next time you are scrolling through your feed and you stop on a photo of a celebrity wearing an absurdly large, feather-covered hat, you now know the deep historical and cultural roots behind that fashion choice.
You aren't just looking at a weird fashion choice, you're looking at a piece of broadcast technology. You're looking at a feat of physics.
Right.
And you are looking at a tradition engineered in 1875 to weaponize wealth, which actually, looking back at those 1875 origins, raises an incredibly compelling question about where we are today.
Oh, I like where this is going. What's the thread?
Well, Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr. explicitly created the Derby's fashion rules to mimic the old money, the aristocracy, and the exclusivity of European royalty at events like Royal Ascot.
He wanted American high society to feel like monarchs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today, the aristocrats at Churchill Downs aren't dukes or duchesses. They are boy band singers, NFL tight ends, and sitcom actors.
That's a huge shift.
Right. So what does our modern obsession with endlessly judging celebrity red carpet outfits at the Derby say about America's own unique paparazzi-driven version of royalty today? Have we just replaced the European monarchy with a different kind of untouchable elite?
Man, from the mud of the racetrack to the silk of the red carpet, we are always looking for our crown, aren't we?
We really are.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking past the surface, and we will see you next time.